Master your day with the same relentless clarity that geniuses use by designing each hour with intention. This chapter gives practical, science-backed strategies to reclaim wasted time, tripling focused output without burning out. You will learn precise methods to audit your hours, align work with energy peaks, and build rituals that make discipline effortless. Follow step-by-step techniques you can apply tonight to wake up sharper and finish stronger. Expect measurable gains in productivity, creativity, and calm within 7 days. If this resonates, subscribe for weekly tactics and short guided practices that keep progress unavoidable. Start transforming hours into results. Number 1, audit hours. Eliminate low-value tasks. Time is the most honest ledger. Every minute written to it cannot be rewritten. The first act of mastery is to stop treating hours like an endless resource and to begin treating them like currency, counted, allocated, and defended. Auditing hours is not a ritual of guilt. It is a method of truth. It reveals where attention drifts, which small tasks accumulate into wasted days, and which choices quietly decide the quality of life. Start here. Capture reality before changing it. When the truth of how time is spent is clear, the path to eliminating low-value tasks becomes simple, practical, and unavoidable. Begin with a precise inventory. For 7 days, record every activity, every shard of attention. Do not approximate. Use 15-minute increments, and be brutally honest about transitional moments. The 2 minutes scrolling a feed between meetings, the 10 minutes reopening an email because the subject line looked urgent. Use a simple spreadsheet, a notepad, or a time tracking app, whatever matches the willingness to record without excuse. The first few days will feel tedious. That feeling is productive. It surfaces assumptions, the idea that I work hard without evidence, or that certain habits like constant checking are necessary. Seeing a day in rows and columns makes invisible drains visible. A pattern will appear, white space that is actually distraction, repeated administrative tasks, meetings that produce no measurable outcome. Next, classify every entry by outcome value. Create 3 buckets. High value moves a goal forward, creates measurable progress, nourishes health or relationships. Medium value, necessary administrative tasks or occasional creativity. And low value, habitual consumption, shallow busy work, passive scrolling, ambiguous meetings. Be concrete. A 1-hour meeting that ends with 3 clear action items and 1 new client is high value. A 1-hour meeting that restates information already known and ends without decisions is low value. A 30-minute social scroll that leaves the heart lighter might be medium value, but an hour of doom scrolling that leaves anxiety behind is low value. This classification is a moral and practical judgment. The morality comes from how attention is used, the practicality from outcomes produced. Quantify the cost. Convert hours of low-value activity into outcomes foregone. If 2 hours per day are consumed by low-value tasks, that is 10 hours a work week, 40 a month. 40 hours is a full work week surrendered to activities that neither advance goals nor restore energy. Imagine the projects that could be completed, the books that could be read, the relationships that could be deepened with that reclaimed time. The calculation is not intended to invoke panic, but clarity. Seeing the arithmetic makes the necessity of change undeniable. Now apply a triage system. Eliminate, delegate, automate, consolidate, or schedule. For elimination, ask, does this task need to exist at all? Many routines persist because they always have. Many meetings exist because they have always been called. Cancel recurring meetings for a month and replace them with an agenda-only document. If nothing changes, the meeting was low value. For delegation, identify the smallest task that still produces the desired result and hand it to someone else. Provide clear instructions, expected outcomes, and a decision threshold for escalation. Delegation is not laziness, it is leverage. Automation is the silent worker. Email filters, canned responses, template documents, scheduled bill payments, and recurring orders. A small investment in setting up automation often returns hours every month. Consolidation and batching convert scattered low-value fragments into controlled blocks that reduce the cognitive cost of switching. Answer all non-urgent emails in 1 2-hour block twice weekly instead of reacting 5 times a day. Create a brutally honest meeting rule. Every meeting must have an agenda, an owner, a desired decision, and a documented follow-up. If any one element is missing, decline or repurpose the meeting into an asynchronous update. Use calendar descriptions to force clarity. Decision: choose Q1 campaign lead, not catch-up. The default position becomes refusal until the organizer proves value. This is a discipline that protects time with dignity, rather than defensiveness. Guarding attention requires physical boundaries. Turn off non-essential notifications on devices. Silence vibration. Allow only designated communication channels to break deep focus. The body registers a buzzing phone in the chest long before the mind does. The immediate reaction is readiness to respond, a physiological and mental drain. Replace that with a simple ritual, a short period of silence before opening any notification. Breathe, read the subject line, then decide whether the matter requires immediate attention. This small practice strengthens the prefrontal muscle that chooses purpose over reflex. Design a daily skeleton with anchored rituals. A skeleton is not a minute-by-minute prison. It is a framework of immutable appointments for what matters most. Anchor mornings with a short, focused period for the single highest impact work, the task that moves the needle. Anchor midday with a nourishing break that truly restores, a walk, a meal without screens, a brief practice of breath. Anchor evenings with a review, not to punish, but to learn. These anchors create a rhythm that makes the low-value tasks less seductive. They no longer feel like gaps needing to be filled. Replace a scattered day with a few committed rituals, and the space that remains will begin to feel like a resource rather than an obligation. Cultivate the language of refusal. Saying no is an act of respect for what is important. Use short, clear phrases that remove ambiguity. Templates help. Appreciate the invite. Unable to attend. Request notes and decisions. Or this meeting looks informational. Can it be a shared doc instead? When an immediate no feels too stark, propose an alternative. Not able this time. I can contribute via a 10-minute written brief. Refusal is not cruelty. It is stewardship. Measure progress with metrics that matter. Track focus hours, continuous blocks of 60 minutes spent on high-value work, and interruptions. Record the number of decisions made per week, and compare to meeting hours. Track energy. Rate daily energy on a scale of 1 to 10, and correlate with activities. Over time, patterns will reveal which low-value tasks siphon energy and which high-value blocks fuel momentum. Adjustments are informed by data, not mood. Address the emotional resistance that surfaces when eliminating low-value tasks. There is often guilt attached, the fear of being perceived as unhelpful, of missing out, or of appearing less occupied. Stoic practice reframes this. External judgments are outside control. Choices and actions are within it. Practice a short internal script before saying no. This decision aligns with what matters. That is sufficient. Replace guilt with curiosity. Ask, what outcome is this activity intended to produce? If the answer is vague or absent, the activity is likely a hollow habit. Create micro-routines for transition moments. The hours between major tasks are fertile ground for drift. Have a pocket list of 2-minute resets, standing stretch, a single note of gratitude, a 90-second breath practice, or a quick surface clean of the workspace. These micro-routines interrupt the pattern of reflexive distraction and create a pause that returns the mind to purpose. Use sensory anchors to reinforce focus. When about to begin deep work, create a small set of cues, a particular mug with tea, a short tune played once, or a physical object placed to the right of the laptop. The body learns association. Over days, that cue reduces the startup friction of focus, like a key that unlocks a mode of sustained attention. These sensory details make the practice feel alive and human rather than clinical. Finally, commit to a weekly audit ritual. Spend 30 to 60 minutes reviewing the recorded week. Look for trends and ask 4 questions. What produced value? What consumed time without value? What can be removed entirely? What can be improved through automation or delegation? The audit is not punishment. It is a conversation with reality. Make incremental changes and test them for 2 weeks. If the change improves outcomes, embed it. If not, iterate. This is the work of continuous refinement, driven by humility and curiosity. Auditing hours and eliminating low-value tasks is not a one-time exercise. It is a discipline of life. It requires patience, small experiments, and the courage to reconstruct daily patterns. The reward is not merely having more time, but having more of what life actually wants: focused work that matters, relationships that are fed by presence, and rest that restores. When hours are treated with the respect given to a finite resource, days begin to take on a quiet integrity. The sound of a phone left in another room becomes less like loss and more like presence returning. The body remembers the feeling of sustained attention, and the mind remembers the lucidity of clear purpose. Mastery of hours is mastery of self, the small, steady choices that shape every immediate moment into something meaningful and true. Number 2, design daily routines around energy. Energy is the currency of productivity. Hours themselves are meaningless if the energy to use them effectively is absent. Every day presents a fluctuating landscape of vitality, focus, and designing routines around energy is not about forcing willpower, but about aligning actions with natural rhythms. It is the difference between pushing through exhaustion and flowing through work with presence and clarity. Understanding the subtle signals the body and mind provide allows a person to maximize output while preserving health, creativity, and resilience. This practice transforms the ordinary day into a series of purposeful, high-impact periods. The first step is self-awareness. Track not just the clock, but the levels of energy throughout the day. Over a week, note when alertness is sharpest, when focus slips, when physical strength dips, and when creative thinking peaks. Use simple markers, energy rated on a scale of 1 to 10, emotional state, and mental clarity. Patterns emerge quickly. Perhaps mornings are sharp and decisive, afternoons sluggish, evenings contemplative, or maybe bursts of clarity appear in short, irregular intervals. Mapping these rhythms is essential. Without this map, any routine is a guess, leaving productivity to chance and fatigue to dictate outcomes. Once energy patterns are understood, routines can be designed to respect them rather than fight against them. Place demanding cognitive work during peak alertness. Tasks that require strategy, problem-solving, writing, or critical thinking should occupy these windows. If mornings provide the clearest focus, reserve this time for high-stakes projects. The brain consumes energy differently for different kinds of tasks. Complex thinking is like sprinting. It cannot be sustained for hours without recovery. Simpler tasks, repetitive administrative work, or communication can fill lower energy periods. This alignment is not indulgence. It is efficiency multiplied by insight. By matching task complexity to energy availability, output quality increases without extending effort or fatigue. Movement and nourishment play critical roles in shaping energy patterns. Routines that ignore the body are doomed to drift. Begin by integrating short physical rituals at energy troughs: a brisk walk, a series of stretches, or even a few minutes of deep breathing. These micro boosts awaken circulation, stimulate oxygen flow to the brain, and reset focus. Nutrition must also be considered. Heavy meals during peak cognitive hours often induce lethargy in strategic eating. Lighter, protein-rich meals during focus periods, and carbohydrate-rich meals during restorative times stabilizes energy rather than creating spikes and crashes. Hydration is equally essential. Even mild dehydration reduces alertness and amplifies fatigue. Energy-aware routines are holistic. They treat the mind and body as an integrated system. Another layer is the psychological framing of tasks. Energy is not only physical but also emotional. Tasks aligned with intrinsic motivation tend to require less force to execute. If a project aligns with personal meaning or curiosity, energy flows naturally. Conversely, repetitive or uninspiring tasks drain willpower. Identify the emotional weight of each activity. Schedule tasks that inspire engagement during mid-energy phases to maintain momentum. Assign neutral or less engaging tasks to lower energy periods, but accompany them with small rewards or markers of progress. This conscious design converts emotional awareness into practical structure. Routines should also include deliberate recovery intervals. High energy periods are unsustainable without pauses. Use techniques that restore rather than distract. Short breaks with focused breathing, quiet reflection, a brief walk outside, or mindful attention to sensory input can replenish attention more effectively than random scrolling or multitasking. Rest becomes a productive element rather than a passive gap. Understanding that energy cycles are natural prevents guilt over stepping away from work and reinforces the value of strategic restoration. Begin each day with a ritual that aligns attention and energy. A structured morning routine anchors the day with clarity, momentum, and purpose. Avoid beginning with reactive behaviors such as immediately checking email or social media. These consume mental energy without producing meaningful outcomes. Instead, initiate a brief period of reflection, movement, or focused planning. Even 5 minutes of deliberate intention, combined with physical activation, sets the tone for the rest of the day. Energy-aware routines start not with the clock but with the body and mind in a state of readiness. Flexibility is critical. Energy patterns can shift due to sleep quality, stress, environmental factors, or workload. Design routines with buffers that allow adjustments without guilt or loss of progress. For example, a 2-hour block for creative work may be split into smaller intervals when energy dips, with a short recovery period inserted between segments. Resilience comes from honoring the signals of the body and mind, rather than rigid adherence to a plan that ignores reality. True mastery is adaptability within a disciplined structure. Integration of environmental cues strengthens energy-based routines. Light, sound, temperature, and workspace organization all influence alertness. Exposure to natural light in the morning regulates circadian rhythms, improving energy consistency. Reduce sensory clutter during focus periods to prevent unnecessary cognitive load. Background noise or music should support the type of task. Silence or soft instrumental music can enhance concentration, while repetitive low-energy tasks may benefit from more stimulating background input. Subtle adjustments to surroundings create a fertile space for energy alignment without forcing effort. Accountability amplifies adherence. Share key elements of energy-focused routines with trusted colleagues, partners, or mentors. External accountability provides reinforcement and reduces the likelihood of slipping into old, energy-draining habits. Additionally, self-monitoring fosters insight. Journaling the completion of tasks during high-energy phases, noting deviations, and reflecting on how each adjustment affected productivity deepens understanding. Tracking is not punitive, but a mirror of reality, a tool for continuous refinement. Energy-based routines also require a forward-looking approach. Plan not only for the immediate day, but for the cumulative effect on energy across the week. Avoid overloading consecutive high-energy periods without recovery. Balance intensive mental work with lighter tasks, physical activity, and restorative practices across the schedule. This macro-level perspective prevents burnout and ensures sustainable performance. Designing routines around energy is both granular and strategic. It requires attention to minute-by-minute choices and long-term consequences. Evenings should serve as a wind-down aligned with declining energy. End the day with tasks that require less cognitive strain and promote restoration. Reflection, planning, light reading, or creative hobbies work best when mental energy wanes. Allow the body and mind to transition into rest deliberately. Avoid high-stimulation activities such as social media binges, excessive screens, or intense problem-solving that interfere with sleep quality. Energy-aware routines recognize the cyclical nature of human vitality, preserving it through conscious closure. Finally, cultivating awareness over time transforms routines into an intuitive system. The goal is not to follow a rigid schedule, but to internalize the cues of energy, learn from feedback, and adjust with skill. When the alignment of energy, task, and environment becomes second nature, productivity feels effortless and satisfying. The person ceases to work against themselves and begins to flow within the natural rhythm of their vitality. Designing daily routines around energy is a practice of listening, experimenting, and structuring life to match the human body's inherent rhythms. It respects limits, harnesses peaks, and transforms low points into strategic pauses. The result is a life where hours are not merely filled, but inhabited with intention and effectiveness. When routines honor energy rather than ignore it, every action carries purpose, every day feels expansive, and every moment of effort becomes a deliberate investment rather than a forced exertion. Mastery of energy is mastery of the day itself, unlocking consistent high performance, resilience, and the capacity to live fully while accomplishing what matters most. Number 3. Plan tomorrow before sleeping nightly. Each day carries within it an unspoken truth. Tomorrow will arrive, whether you prepare or not. The difference between moving through life reactively and moving with intention lies in the simple act of planning the next day before sleep. This practice is not about rigid control or obsessive scheduling. It is about closing the current day with clarity, peace, and purpose, allowing the mind to rest while primed for action. Planning tomorrow nightly transforms the hours ahead from a fog of uncertainty into a structured path toward meaningful progress. It is a quiet discipline that separates those who drift from those who create with force. The first step is reflection. Before crafting the schedule for tomorrow, take a brief inventory of today. Assess what was accomplished, what lingered, and what lessons arose. Reflection is not self-criticism. It is observation. Recognize patterns of distraction, moments of high focus, and tasks that drained or restored energy. Note unfinished work without judgment. Understanding today's realities provides a clear lens for tomorrow, preventing repetition of inefficiency and allowing insights to guide planning. This process roots the next day in reality rather than assumption, creating a foundation for precision and calm. Next, prioritize. Not all tasks are equal in their contribution to progress or personal growth. Identify the top 3 outcomes that matter most for tomorrow. These are not items that would be nice, but objectives that, if accomplished, meaningfully advance goals or well-being. Distinguish between urgent demands and important priorities, recognizing that urgency rarely equals significance. This prioritization creates focus and prevents the day from being overtaken by the noise of trivial matters. Each night spent identifying priorities ensures that tomorrow's energy and attention are invested where they produce maximum return. Once priorities are clear, create a structured plan. Time block the day around these key outcomes, allocating stretches of uninterrupted focus for the most critical work. Avoid scheduling tasks in vague chunks or assuming they will fit naturally. The human mind responds to defined boundaries. Assigning clear time windows communicates to the subconscious that these periods are sacred, reducing the likelihood of drift or procrastination. Include contingencies for interruptions, but do not allow them to dominate planning. Prepare the mind to navigate disruptions without derailing essential objectives. Integrate energy awareness into planning. Align high-demand tasks with predicted periods of peak alertness and lower-demand tasks with natural energy troughs. Evening planning benefits from knowledge of personal rhythms, recognizing that certain hours are better suited for creative work, others for routine administration, and others for reflection or learning. When tomorrow is planned with energy in mind, effort becomes efficient rather than exhausting, and the sense of overwhelm diminishes before it begins. Physical and mental preparation enhances effectiveness. A short ritual before sleep, organizing the workspace, laying out materials, or drafting a brief to-do list, signals to the mind that tomorrow's path is prepared. These external cues reduce friction in the morning and conserve willpower, which is strongest when rested. Preparing the physical environment is as critical as planning the mental landscape. Small adjustments like clearing clutter or charging devices contribute to an effortless start. Consider the psychological dimension. When the mind enters sleep with a plan in place, it allows the subconscious to work in the background. Sleep is more restorative when anxiety about the unknown is minimized. Planning nightly creates mental closure, reducing rumination, and improving the quality of rest. The brain can consolidate learning, process challenges, and generate creative solutions while the body recharges. Skipping this ritual leaves the mind scanning tasks at midnight, fragmenting sleep and reducing energy for tomorrow's demands. Include buffer periods and realistic expectations. Overloading the schedule with every conceivable task invites frustration and failure. Instead, honor limits and allow space for adaptation. A plan is not a prison, but a flexible roadmap. Predictable slack periods accommodate unexpected developments and prevent stress from overtaking discipline. Planning nightly is an exercise in foresight, not perfection. The goal is clarity and direction, not rigid adherence. Even mundane tasks deserve attention in nightly planning. Low-energy responsibilities, responding to emails, filing administrative work, should be slotted strategically rather than left to chance. When routine elements are scheduled, they occupy predictable space in the day without impinging on critical objectives. By assigning them deliberate slots, these tasks no longer consume mental bandwidth or create hidden friction, leaving cognitive resources for the work that truly matters. Nightly planning also strengthens commitment. Writing down tomorrow's objectives, even in minimal form, acts as a contract with oneself. The act of recording increases accountability and psychological investment. Visual reminders of tomorrow's priorities, a sticky note, a digital planner, or a journal entry, reinforce focus the next day. This creates momentum before the day begins, reducing reliance on sheer willpower, which ebbs and flows. Incorporate reflection prompts into the planning ritual. Briefly consider questions like, what is one action tomorrow that will make the day meaningful? Or what challenge might arise and how will I respond? This form of proactive problem solving primes the mind to navigate obstacles with clarity. It also fosters resilience by recognizing that while the day is planned, flexibility and adaptive thinking remain necessary. Nightly planning is not rigidity, but preparation for deliberate navigation of reality. The rhythm of preparation transforms mornings into moments of clarity, rather than chaos. A well-planned tomorrow allows waking with intention, starting the day with momentum instead of scrambling to decide what matters. The mind is free from trivial decisions, conserving energy for high-value actions. The first hour of the day becomes a launchpad for productivity rather than a reaction to circumstances. Consistency in this ritual compounds over weeks, creating an exponential increase in effectiveness and control over life. Nightly planning extends beyond work. Include elements that nourish body, mind, and relationships. Schedule movement, meals, rest, and moments of connection deliberately. Recognize that effectiveness is holistic. Mental focus requires physical well-being, emotional resilience, and social support. When planning integrates these aspects, the day is aligned not only with goals but with overall vitality, creating a sustainable, balanced trajectory toward mastery. Finally, make the practice non-negotiable. Nightly planning is not an optional habit, but a cornerstone of disciplined life. It is an act of sovereignty over time, energy, and intention. Over time, the consistency of this habit cultivates a sense of control and confidence that permeates every action. Small nightly investments yield large daily dividends, fewer mistakes, reduced stress, sharper focus, and amplified progress toward long-term goals. Planning tomorrow before sleeping nightly is both a practical tool and a mental discipline. It transforms uncertainty into clarity, chaos into structure, and intention into action. By reflecting on today, prioritizing meaning, designing energy-aligned schedules, and preparing the mind and environment, every day can be approached with purpose and calm. Mastery begins in the quiet moments before sleep, where the next day is claimed before it even begins, turning hours into deliberate opportunities, rather than passive experience. When executed consistently, this nightly ritual becomes the backbone of a life led with foresight, precision, and enduring impact. Number 4, time block priorities. Defend them fiercely. Time is a battlefield, and priorities are the territory worth defending. Every person faces an endless array of demands, distractions, and urgencies, but the way to mastery is not to react to each call, message, or request. It is to identify what truly matters and protect the time allocated to it with unwavering discipline. Time blocking is not simply scheduling. It is declaring ownership of your hours and committing to using them purposefully. Defending these blocks fiercely is the act that separates superficial busyness from real accomplishment, turning intention into tangible results. The first step is to identify priorities with clarity. Not everything that appears urgent is important, and not everything that is enjoyable contributes to long-term goals. True priorities are those actions or projects that have measurable impact on your life, career, health, or personal growth. Begin by listing high-value tasks that advance these areas. Assign each task a weight based on significance, urgency, and outcome. This prioritization is not abstract. It is a deliberate calculation that distinguishes noise from necessity. Without this clarity, time blocking becomes a cosmetic exercise, failing to guard the most precious resource, attention. Once priorities are established, create defined time blocks in the daily schedule. These are not vague allocations. They are sacred segments of uninterrupted focus. Assign specific start and end times for each high-value activity. Time blocking transforms amorphous tasks into concrete commitments. The mind reacts to this external structure by increasing focus and efficiency. For example, instead of planning to work on writing in the morning, specify writing from 7:00 to 9:00 a.m. with no interruptions. The act of naming and bounding the period sends a signal both psychologically and practically. This time is untouchable. Defending time blocks requires vigilance. In a world designed to pull attention in multiple directions, the ability to say no becomes essential. Every incoming request, meeting, or notification is a test of discipline. Evaluate each interruption against the priority list. Will this add measurable value, or does it merely distract? If it is not aligned, reject it or reschedule it. This defense is not about being uncooperative. It is about stewardship of outcomes and energy. Each time a priority block is violated unnecessarily, the day loses leverage over meaningful progress. Protecting these windows is an act of self-respect and strategic thinking. Preparation enhances defense. Time blocks are fortified when the work environment minimizes intrusion. Silence notifications, close unrelated applications, and signal to others that these periods are reserved. Simple external cues, such as a closed door, a status message, or a visual marker on a desk, communicate boundaries without confrontation. The fewer the distractions, the stronger the commitment to concentrated effort. External fortifications support internal discipline, reducing the friction of defending the time from constant external pressures. Batching related tasks within time blocks strengthens focus. Instead of scattering small actions throughout the day, consolidate them into contiguous periods. Emails, administrative work, and repetitive routines can be grouped to avoid fragmenting attention. High-value work deserves full, uninterrupted blocks, while lower-value or reactive tasks occupy separate, clearly defined times. This separation prevents high-impact activities from being diluted by constant context switching, allowing the mind to enter deeper states of concentration where productivity multiplies. Visual cues are powerful allies in defending time. Color-coded calendars, physical sticky notes, or digital reminders signal importance and reinforce commitment. The brain responds to these markers by assigning attention and urgency appropriately. Time blocking is strengthened when there is a tangible representation of what is non-negotiable. These cues also create accountability, both to oneself and to those who interact with you, reinforcing that your time is not freely accessible. Energy awareness enhances the effectiveness of time blocking. Schedule high-demand tasks during periods of peak mental and physical capacity. Allocate lower-demand or maintenance tasks to periods of natural fatigue. This alignment between energy and activity reduces resistance and maximizes output. For instance, tackling analytical work in the early morning when the mind is sharp and saving routine follow-ups for the afternoon aligns effort with natural capabilities. Time blocking becomes a force multiplier when matched to personal rhythms rather than imposed rigidly. Defending time blocks also involves strategic negotiation. Communicate boundaries assertively to colleagues, clients, or family. Use clear language. I am focusing on a high-priority project from 10:00. This sets expectations and reduces repeated interruptions. The defense of time is both protective and communicative, establishing the value of your hours to others and reinforcing the discipline to yourself. Negotiation is not conflict, it is clarity. Micro-preparation within time blocks amplifies results. Begin each block with a brief mental and physical reset. Clear the desk, take a few deep breaths, review objectives and outline steps. These small rituals create momentum and signal the brain to enter a focused state quickly. Ending each block deliberately by summarizing progress and defining next steps ensures continuity, reducing the startup cost for the following session. This practice reinforces the sanctity of time blocks and ensures that every minute is productive. Resilience is required when blocks are challenged. Unanticipated events, urgent requests, or internal distractions can encroach on planned periods. Respond with deliberate evaluation. Is this interruption truly more critical than the scheduled block? If not, defer, delegate, or decline. Maintain flexibility without surrendering core priorities. The skill of defending time is not rigidity. It is disciplined adaptability. Each decision to protect the block strengthens habit, reinforces focus, and compounds impact over time. The psychological impact of protected time is profound. When high-value tasks are completed in dedicated blocks, confidence, clarity, and satisfaction increase. The day ceases to be a reactive struggle and becomes a controlled, purpose-driven experience. Productivity rises, stress diminishes, and creativity flourishes within predictable structures. Time blocking transforms hours from a scattered resource into a measurable strategic asset. Weekly review reinforces this system. At the end of each week, analyze which blocks were defended successfully and which were compromised. Reflect on patterns, interruptions, and energy alignment. Adjust future blocks based on insights. Shift high-value work to better energy periods. Protect previously compromised windows, and refine defensive strategies. Iterative refinement creates an evolving system where focus, output, and discipline improve continuously. Time blocking is both a tactical and philosophical practice. It demands attention to detail, respect for limits, and courage to enforce boundaries. Defending priorities fiercely is not convenience. It is a statement of values, a declaration that the most important outcomes deserve unbroken attention. It is a refusal to let reactive tasks, minor urgencies, or trivial distractions dictate the flow of life. Each successful defense reinforces autonomy, sharpens decision-making, and cultivates the rare ability to control one's own hours instead of being controlled by them. The long-term effect of this discipline is transformational. Consistently protected time blocks accumulate into significant achievements, sustained focus, and personal mastery. Life becomes a series of deliberate actions rather than fragmented reactions. Creativity, insight, and meaningful progress expand naturally when priorities are respected and defended. Protecting time blocks is not merely about productivity. It is about living intentionally, building a legacy of purpose, and cultivating a life where effort is directed with precision and wisdom. Time blocking priorities and defending them fiercely is the act of claiming ownership over one's day. It is a blend of clarity, courage, strategy, and habit. Each block becomes a fortress for focus, a space where high-value actions flourish. Boundaries are not negotiable without reason, and each defense reinforces the discipline of deliberate living. Through this practice, hours are transformed into achievements, distractions lose power, and life aligns with what truly matters. The mastery of time lies not in more hours, but in the fierce protection of the hours that count. Number 5. Batch similar tasks to focus. The human brain is not designed for constant task switching. Every time attention shifts from one activity to another, there is a hidden cost, loss of focus, wasted energy, and decreased efficiency. One of the most powerful strategies to amplify productivity is batching similar tasks together, creating blocks of concentrated effort on a single type of work. This principle transforms scattered, fragmented days into streamlined periods of high-impact action, enabling the mind to enter deeper levels of focus, while reducing the cognitive friction of constant context changes. Batching is both practical and strategic, turning the natural limitations of attention into a tool for mastery. Begin by identifying patterns in your daily responsibilities. Observe recurring types of work: emails, administrative duties, phone calls, content creation, research, or creative problem solving. Map these activities over the course of a week to understand how often each appears and how long it consumes attention. This mapping reveals opportunities for consolidation. Often, tasks are interspersed irregularly throughout the day, creating unnecessary mental switching. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward clustering similar activities into coherent batches. Once patterns are identified, allocate dedicated periods for each batch. For instance, instead of responding to emails intermittently throughout the day, set aside a single, uninterrupted session to process all correspondence. The same applies to phone calls, document reviews, or minor administrative duties. By grouping like tasks, the mind remains in a consistent mode, allowing for greater speed and accuracy. Attention is no longer fragmented by shifting gears but directed purposefully, producing more work in less time. The principle of batching extends beyond work type to mental energy and cognitive demand. Group tasks by the type of thinking they require: analytical, creative, repetitive, or strategic. When creative tasks are batched, the mind can enter a state of flow, unbroken by unrelated analytical work. When repetitive tasks are batched, efficiency improves because habits and muscle memory dominate, freeing conscious effort for higher-level decisions. Strategic grouping ensures that energy is allocated optimally, preventing exhaustion from frequent task transitions. Preparation is essential to effective batching. Before entering a batch session, gather all necessary materials, data, and resources. Eliminate potential interruptions, including notifications, emails, or social media. Signal to colleagues or household members that this time is reserved, using visual cues or status attenters. A fully prepared environment allows the mind to focus entirely on the batch at hand, avoiding wasted moments of searching, context switching, or mental recalibration. Batches should be intentionally sized. Too small, and the benefit of flow is lost. Too large, and fatigue sets in. Optimal batching balances concentration with sustainability, allowing work to progress efficiently without diminishing return. Experimentation is required to find the right duration for different types of work. Some creative or analytical tasks may require deep blocks of 90 or 120 minutes, while administrative tasks may function best in 30-45-minute bursts. Tracking performance over time helps refine the balance. Batching also reduces decision fatigue. Each transition between unrelated tasks requires a mental recalibration, a choice about priorities, and a series of micro-decisions. Over the course of a day, these repeated switches deplete willpower and energy. By grouping similar tasks, the number of transitions is minimized, preserving focus and mental clarity. Decisions become concentrated and efficient, rather than scattered and reactive, creating an exponential increase in productivity. Energy management complements batching. Schedule high-focus batches during peak energy periods and low-energy batches during natural lulls. Aligning mental and physical capacity with the type of work ensures that effort produces maximum results. Creative or high-stakes tasks belong in windows of alertness and mental clarity, whereas repetitive, routine tasks are best placed in lower energy periods. Batching becomes not only a method of efficiency but a tool for respecting the body's rhythm. Routine reinforcement strengthens batching. Establishing predictable batch sessions for recurring types of work creates automaticity. For example, morning email batches, midday administrative blocks, and afternoon creative sessions become habitual, reducing the cognitive burden of scheduling each day from scratch. Over time, the mind anticipates these periods, enters focus more quickly, and experiences less resistance. Consistency transforms batching from a conscious effort into an effortless rhythm of work. Boundaries are critical to protecting batch periods. Interruptions are the primary threat to effectiveness. Enforce rules that preserve these windows. Silence devices, close unrelated tabs, and communicate clearly with others about availability. Batch periods are non-negotiable without extraordinary cause. Protecting them fiercely ensures that work progresses without erosion by distractions. Each defended block reinforces discipline, signaling to the subconscious that focus is valued and sacred. Batching improves quality as well as quantity. When similar tasks are performed sequentially, the brain develops efficiency through repetition and context familiarity. Mistakes decrease because attention is stabilized, and ideas or decisions build on each other logically. For creative work, batching enables the incubation of concepts, where the mind remains immersed in a thematic thread rather than disrupted by unrelated concerns. The result is work that is more coherent, polished, and strategically aligned with long-term goals. Integration across digital and physical environments amplifies batching. Use tools to consolidate similar tasks. Email filters, project management boards, templates, and automation reduce friction in executing batches. Physical organization, such as grouping documents, tools, or reference materials, further streamlines work. When the environment supports the batching process, the mind is freed to focus entirely on content rather than logistics. Efficiency becomes structural, not just behavior. Reflecting on batch effectiveness is essential. At the end of each day or week, review whether batching improved focus, output, and energy management. Identify tasks that resisted grouping, determine why, and adjust strategies accordingly. Continuous refinement ensures that batching evolves with changing priorities, workload, and personal energy patterns. The practice becomes iterative, responsive, and increasingly precise, reinforcing long-term mastery of attention. Batching also has psychological benefits. Completing a batch creates a tangible sense of accomplishment and momentum. Seeing a series of similar tasks completed sequentially reinforces competence, reduces stress, and strengthens confidence. The mind perceives progress, not as a fragmented trail but as a coherent movement toward defined goals. Each batch transforms scattered effort into cumulative achievement. Incorporating buffers between batches is essential for recovery. Even focused work produces cognitive fatigue. Short breaks allow the mind to reset, prevent burnout, and prepare for the next thematic period. This deliberate pacing ensures that energy remains high throughout the day and that focus during each batch is sustainable. Recovery is a strategic part of batching, not a luxury or afterthought. Batching similar tasks to focus is an act of reclaiming attention from the constant assault of distractions, decisions, and scattered priorities. It transforms work from a fragmented, exhausting sequence into structured periods of flow, where energy is concentrated, mistakes are minimized, and output is amplified. Over time, batching becomes an intuitive approach, where the mind naturally aligns with clustered activities, and the day itself feels cohesive, purposeful, and under deliberate control. The mastery of batching is mastery over distraction, mental friction, and wasted energy. Each consolidated period produces higher quality results, while conserving attention for the work that truly matters. The strategy is practical, repeatable, and sustainable, providing a framework for achieving more in less time while preserving energy and mental clarity. When executed consistently, batching turns hours into coherent, powerful units of accomplishment, transforming the ordinary day into a structured, high-impact experience that advances goals, strengthens discipline, and cultivates a life of deliberate effectiveness. Number 6. Start days with hardest work. Each morning presents a choice: drift into easy tasks, or confront the work that challenges, stretches, and defines progress. Beginning the day with the hardest work is not a tactic of punishment. It is a deliberate strategy to harness clarity, energy, and momentum. The mind is freshest upon waking, free from the accumulated fatigue of the day. Willpower is strongest in the early hours, decision-making is most precise, and the ability to focus is at its peak. Choosing to face difficult tasks first leverages this natural advantage, turning potential struggle into a source of achievement and confidence. The principle is simple: identify the single most demanding, important, or high-stakes task that must be accomplished. This is the task that, if completed, produces the greatest impact, progress, or personal growth. It may be writing a critical report, strategizing a new project, solving a complex problem, or addressing a challenging conversation. Naming this task clearly transforms it from an amorphous pressure in the mind into a tangible objective. Clarity is essential. Ambiguity robs energy and invites procrastination. Preparation the night before strengthens this approach. Outline what the hard task entails, list resources needed, and visualize the steps to completion. A brief mental rehearsal primes the brain for action. When morning arrives, the mind is not burdened with planning but fully ready to execute. This preparation creates a seamless transition from rest to high-impact activity, reducing the friction of starting. By entering the day with purpose, the most challenging work becomes achievable rather than intimidating. Starting with the hardest work produces cascading benefits. Completing significant challenges early reduces stress and anxiety throughout the day. The psychological weight of looming difficulty is lifted, freeing mental space for creativity, strategy, and responsiveness. The day becomes framed by accomplishment rather than by reactive activity. Momentum generated by early achievement propels subsequent tasks, even those that might otherwise feel routine or uninspiring. Progress begets progress. Energy spent overcoming difficulty early compounds into productivity for the remainder of the day. Discipline is central to this strategy. Morning routines often include distractions, checking messages, browsing news, or responding to minor demands. Resisting these impulses is critical. Protect the first period of the day exclusively for the most demanding work. Use physical and digital boundaries. Silence notifications, isolate the workspace, and establish rituals that signal the brain it is time for focused effort. The discipline of beginning with challenge sets the tone for intentionality and mastery across all subsequent hours. Breaking the hardest work into manageable segments increases the likelihood of completion. Large or complex tasks can feel overwhelming, inviting procrastination. Divide the work into clearly defined steps or phases, creating measurable milestones within the morning session. Each milestone reached produces immediate feedback, reinforcing engagement and reducing the perception of difficulty. The mind experiences incremental success, maintaining motivation and focus throughout the block of effort. Energy management amplifies effectiveness. The early hours are ideal for mentally demanding tasks because the mind is unencumbered by fatigue. Pair this strategy with practices that enhance alertness. Adequate sleep, hydration, light physical movement, and a brief period of reflection or meditation. These practices prime the brain and body, ensuring that the energy required for complex problem solving is available. When mornings are aligned with both mental and physical readiness, difficult work can be executed with precision and minimal resistance. Psychological framing transforms perception of hard work. Instead of viewing the task as a burden, consider it an opportunity to grow, create impact, and gain mastery. This mindset shift reduces avoidance behaviors and enhances engagement. Hard tasks become not obstacles but gateways to achievement. The early accomplishment of these tasks reinforces identity. The individual sees themselves as capable, disciplined, and proactive, shaping future behavior and decisions with self-reinforcing confidence. Environmental design supports the approach. A dedicated workspace, minimal distractions, and a clear set of tools and references reduce startup friction. Sensory cues, such as a particular workspace arrangement, lighting, or background environment, signal readiness for high concentration activity. Creating a space optimized for tackling difficulty ensures that mornings are productive, not by force of will alone, but by design. The environment aligns with the goal, making focus natural rather than contrived. Accountability strengthens commitment. Communicate intentions to colleagues, mentors, or family. The first period of the day is reserved for critical work. This external acknowledgement reduces internal negotiation, as social expectation reinforces discipline. When interruptions occur, clarity of purpose allows for assertive but respectful management of demands. Protecting this period demonstrates the value placed on impact and self-mastery, further solidifying the habit of starting with challenge. The cumulative effect of beginning the day with the hardest work is profound. Each morning becomes a rehearsal in discipline, focus, and achievement. Tasks that once felt insurmountable become approachable when faced in a high-energy, uncluttered state. Confidence builds, not from mere completion of work, but from the consistent practice of confronting difficulty with intention. The day's tone is set by accomplishment rather than reaction, creating a rhythm of continuous momentum and effective. Flexibility complements discipline. While the hardest task should dominate the early session, minor adjustments are sometimes necessary due to unforeseen circumstances. Recognize external interruptions, but remain vigilant in prioritizing core objectives. Adapt without abandoning the principle. Each morning becomes a negotiation between circumstance and intention, honing the ability to preserve focus amidst complexity. The skill of balancing rigor with adaptability is essential for long-term mastery of productivity. Micro-strategies enhance engagement within the morning block. Techniques such as time boxing, deliberate pauses, or alternating subtasks prevent cognitive fatigue. Physical movement or brief reflection between steps maintains energy without diminishing focus. Small rituals, a cup of tea, a short breathing exercise, a glance at objectives, signal transitions, and reinforce momentum. Attention to both macro and microstructure optimizes performance and sustains commitment to challenging work. Reflection at the end of the morning session reinforces learning and improvement. Evaluate progress, obstacles, and strategies. Adjust subsequent blocks of work based on insights gained. This habit turns each day into a cycle of experimentation and refinement, where the approach to difficult work evolves continuously. Reflection strengthens both skill and self-awareness, enhancing the ability to start future days with clarity and purpose. Starting days with the hardest work is more than a productivity tactic. It is a principle of disciplined life. It teaches the mind to embrace challenge rather than avoid it, to prioritize impact over ease, and to transform potential dread into accomplishment. Early success fosters resilience, focus, and confidence that radiates through all subsequent activities. Over time, this practice compounds, creating a pattern of deliberate action and consistent high achievement that shapes identity and outcomes alike. The strategy integrates seamlessly with broader approaches to mastery of time and energy. By identifying priorities, batching similar tasks, and defending focus, the early tackle of difficult work amplifies these methods, ensuring that the most important efforts receive the attention and energy they require. Days become intentional, structured, and aligned with long-term goals. Success is not left to chance or reactive momentum, but is actively claimed in the first hours, setting the trajectory for everything that follows. Starting each day with the hardest work transforms mornings into periods of empowerment, clarity, and high-impact action. It is a practice of foresight, courage, and self-mastery. Each challenge met early is a victory that compounds, producing momentum, confidence, and results that define a life of deliberate effectiveness. By consistently applying this principle, the day is conquered not in haste or reaction, but with strategy, discipline, and mastery, turning effort into measurable achievement and intention into tangible progress. Number 7, limit inputs. Control notifications strictly. In a world overflowing with information, the ability to focus has become one of the most valuable skills. Inputs arrive constantly: emails, messages, social media, news alerts, meeting requests, and random notifications. Each ping, flash, or vibration is a subtle command on attention, drawing energy and focus away from meaningful work. Mastery of time and productivity requires deliberate control over what enters the mind and when. Limiting inputs and strictly controlling notifications is not merely convenience. It is a fundamental act of self-preservation and strategic power, allowing the mind to operate without incessant external interference. The first step is awareness. Observe how frequently attention is pulled in multiple directions. Track how often notifications disrupt thought, interrupt flow, or create anxiety. Many interruptions are invisible, leaving only a vague sense of fatigue or diminished output. By identifying patterns, it becomes clear which inputs are necessary and which are distractions masquerading as obligations. Awareness is the foundation for action. Without understanding the volume and impact of inputs, attempts at control are superficial and ineffective. Prioritize channels of communication. Not all inputs deserve equal access to attention. Determine which sources are essential for achieving goals, maintaining critical relationships, or meeting deadlines. Channels that do not provide meaningful value should be minimized, silenced, or scheduled. This prioritization transforms the environment, allowing the mind to operate with less friction and fewer micro-disruptions. It also creates space for reflection, deep work, and creative thinking activities that are quickly eroded by constant input. Notifications are among the most insidious distractions. Each alert is designed to provoke immediate response, hijacking attention and creating a physiological reaction akin to stress. Silence non-essential notifications entirely. Disable sounds, vibrations, or banners that do not serve immediate high-priority purposes. Consider creating a hierarchy of alerts. Critical communications only, less urgent messages, batched for review at designated time. By establishing boundaries, the mind regains autonomy, deciding consciously when and where to engage, rather than reacting reflexively. Time block input consumption strategically. Assign specific periods for email, messaging apps, news, and social media. Outside these windows, inputs should be ignored or silenced. This prevents constant context switching and allows work periods to remain uninterrupted. Scheduled input sessions increase efficiency because attention is concentrated, allowing rapid triage and response. The brain thrives on predictability. Regularized input windows reduce cognitive friction and decrease the cumulative energy drain caused by sporadic distractions. Filter information rigorously. Not all content is worthy of attention. Use tools to block spam, advertisements, or irrelevant updates. Apply rules for incoming communications to prioritize actionable items. Subscriptions, newsletters, and feeds should be audited regularly, keeping only those that provide substantial value. Limiting exposure reduces noise, freeing cognitive resources for processing high-impact content. The practice of curating information becomes a discipline of both quality and quantity, shaping what the mind consumes rather than letting consumption happen by default. Environment matters. Notifications are amplified when devices, workspaces, and digital ecosystems are unstructured. Design the environment to reduce temptation. Place phones out of immediate reach during focus periods. Use do not disturb modes and limit multitasking platforms. Visual clutter, excessive tabs, and overlapping communication tools fragment attention. By creating a controlled environment, inputs are filtered passively, and focus becomes the default rather than the exception. Batch responses to necessary inputs. Just as work tasks benefit from batching, communication follows the same principle. Answer emails, messages, and inquiries in concentrated blocks, rather than continuously reacting. This prevents constant disruption and allows for higher quality engagement. The mind operates better when context is maintained rather than repeatedly broken. Batching also allows more deliberate decision-making, improving the quality of responses and preserving energy for substantive tasks. Mindful consumption is crucial. Inputs are not neutral. They carry emotional and cognitive weight. Social media, news, and messaging often evoke reactive emotional responses, which deplete energy and reduce clarity. Approach information intentionally. Only consume what serves purpose, knowledge, or actionable outcomes. Reject inputs that provoke anxiety, distraction, or passivity. By controlling consumption, the mind is safeguarded from unnecessary emotional labor, and attention remains aligned with priorities. Experiment with digital minimalism. Reducing the number of apps, notifications, and platforms simplifies control and enhances clarity. Consolidate tools to minimize overlapping alerts and redundant channels. When fewer pathways demand attention, the mind experiences less stress and greater freedom. Each simplification strengthens the ability to engage deeply with meaningful tasks, creating an environment where productivity is supported by structure, rather than resisted by noise. Establish rituals for input management. Begin the day with a deliberate plan. Review essential communications in defined periods. Close non-essential apps, and set the environment to support focus. End the day with a similar ritual. Clear notifications, archive non-critical information, and prepare the mind for restorative rest. Ritualizing input control ensures it becomes habitual, reducing the need for constant decision-making about engagement and freeing mental bandwidth for higher value work. Boundaries must be defended consistently. Notifications and inputs often creep into work periods or personal time. Testing limits. Respond decisively. Silence, defer, or redirect interruptions that do not align with priorities. Each defended boundary reinforces discipline and signals to both the mind and external parties that attention is managed intentionally. Over time, this practice trains both internal habits and external expectations, reducing future disruption. Energy preservation is intertwined with input control. Each interruption consumes mental resources, fragmenting attention and creating micro-stress. By limiting inputs and managing notifications, the mind retains energy for deep work, creative thinking, and decision-making. Sustained focus is achievable only when the environment respects the natural rhythms of attention and reduces unnecessary cognitive load. Reflection enhances effectiveness. Periodically review which inputs are essential, which are distracting, and how notification control impacts productivity. Adjust tools, timing, and filtering practices based on insights. Continuous refinement ensures that control remains aligned with evolving priorities and circumstances. Input management is not static. It is an adaptive practice that strengthens over time. Limiting inputs also cultivates presence. By controlling the inflow of information, the mind can focus on tasks, relationships, and experiences without being pulled outward incessantly. Attention becomes intentional rather than reactive. Depth replaces superficial engagement, allowing for mastery in work and life. Each moment of uninterrupted focus strengthens skill, creativity, and fulfillment. Ultimately, controlling notifications and limiting inputs is an act of sovereignty over attention. It transforms scattered, reactive living into deliberate, purposeful action. By curating what enters the mind, scheduling interactions, filtering content, and defending boundaries, productivity and clarity increase exponentially. The practice is both strategic and liberating. The mind is shielded from distraction, energy is preserved, and focus becomes the default mode. Mastery of attention through input control enables not only efficiency, but also the capacity to live with intention, presence, and measurable impact. This discipline, executed consistently, compounds over time. Each blocked notification, curated feed, and defended session of focus strengthens the mind's capacity to engage deeply, think clearly, and act decisively. Life becomes less about responding to the world and more about shaping it according to priorities. Limiting inputs and strictly controlling notifications is a cornerstone of deliberate productivity, mental resilience, and the cultivation of a life where effort aligns with what truly matters. Number 8. Track time weekly. Refine system. Time is both the most abundant and the most fragile resource. A week can slip by unnoticed, filled with activity yet devoid of meaningful progress. Tracking time weekly transforms this resource from a vague concept into a tangible, actionable asset. It is not about micromanaging every minute or inducing guilt. It is about understanding where energy, focus, and effort are spent, and using that insight to refine systems for greater efficiency and impact. When executed consistently, this practice converts scattered hours into deliberate actions, ensuring that each week contributes meaningfully to long-term goals. The first step is recording activity with precision. Track every significant action over the course of the week. Work tasks, meetings, creative endeavors, personal commitments, rest, and even unstructured time. Include start and end times, energy levels, and outcomes achieved. The goal is not perfection, but visibility. Many inefficiencies remain invisible without data. They are hidden in vague assumptions or recollections. By capturing reality in detail, patterns emerge, revealing areas of wasted effort, unexpected drains on attention, and opportunities for improvement. Analysis follows documentation. Review the collected data carefully, searching for trends. Identify recurring periods of low productivity, frequent interruptions, and tasks that consume disproportionate amounts of time relative to value delivered. Examine how energy fluctuates throughout the week and whether high-value tasks align with peak performance windows. Assess which activities contribute most to long-term objectives and which are distractions or filler. This reflection turns raw information into insight, creating a clear picture of how time is currently spent versus how it could be optimized. Refining systems begins with prioritization. Weekly tracking highlights which tasks produce meaningful results and which do not. Use this knowledge to restructure work processes, focus attention on high-impact activities, and eliminate or delegate low-value tasks. Systems are not static. They are adaptive frameworks that evolve with insight. By continually adjusting based on tracked data, productivity becomes both efficient and intentional. Each week provides feedback, guiding improvements and preventing stagnation. Time blocking is enhanced by tracking. Insights from weekly data allow more accurate allocation of focus periods. For example, if analysis reveals that creative work thrives in late morning, but strategic planning suffers during that time, blocks can be rearranged accordingly. The mind operates optimally when scheduling aligns with natural energy cycles. Tracking provides the empirical foundation for these decisions, replacing guesswork with evidence-driven action. Batching decisions are informed by reflection. Weekly tracking exposes repetitive tasks that could be grouped into contiguous periods. Observing the flow of activity makes it clear where batching can save time and reduce cognitive switching. Whether handling emails, administrative duties, or similar creative activities, consolidating them into dedicated blocks amplifies focus and efficiency. Without insight from tracked data, batching becomes an abstract suggestion rather than a targeted improvement. Interruptions become manageable once understood. Weekly tracking illuminates patterns of disruption, meetings that overrun, casual requests that accumulate, or spontaneous notifications that fragment attention. Systems can then be refined to anticipate and mitigate these interruptions. Schedule buffers for unavoidable disruptions, create policies for communication, and protect focus periods with clear boundaries. By aligning routines with observed realities, the weekly cycle becomes predictable, controlled, and resilient. Energy alignment is sharpened through repeated tracking. Document not only time spent, but the perceived energy and clarity during each activity. This data reveals the correlation between task type, timing, and cognitive performance. Systems can then be adjusted to maximize high-energy periods for the most demanding work, while reserving lower-energy windows for routine or repetitive tasks. The week becomes a map of energy and effort, enabling precise allocation of resources where they produce the greatest return. Reviewing weekly performance fosters accountability. Recording time exposes habits that erode effectiveness, while highlighting progress that might otherwise be overlooked. The practice is not judgmental but reflective, turning subjective impressions into objective insight. Accountability strengthens the discipline of self-management, ensuring that efforts remain aligned with goals rather than drifting into inertia or busyness without purpose. Automation and tools can be integrated to enhance tracking. Use software or simple logs to capture data without creating excessive overhead. Consistent recording preserves accuracy, while reducing mental load. Automated reminders, time tracking applications, or structured journals ensure that observation itself does not become a drain on attention. Systems should serve productivity, not complicate it. The goal is clarity and actionable feedback rather than cumbersome record keeping. Iteration is the key to refining systems. Weekly tracking should inform continuous adjustments. After each review, identify improvements to workflow, scheduling, task allocation, and energy alignment. Implement small changes and monitor their impact over subsequent weeks. Systems evolve in response to feedback, creating a self-correcting cycle where productivity increases organically. The process transforms time management from static planning into a dynamic, responsive practice. Reflection also supports strategic foresight. Weekly insight allows anticipation of future challenges, enabling preparation rather than reaction. Recognize periods likely to be high demand, allocate resources in advance, and preempt common obstacles. Time tracking converts hindsight into foresight, turning accumulated data into predictive intelligence. This strategic perspective ensures that weeks do not merely pass, but build cumulatively towards significant achievement. Efficiency is enhanced by identifying bottlenecks. Time tracking exposes where tasks stall, decisions lag, or processes are unnecessarily prolonged. Systems can then be refined, streamline workflows, delegate responsibilities, or reorganize steps for smoother execution. Removing friction amplifies productivity and creates momentum, allowing high-value work to proceed without repeated interruptions or delays. Balance is another benefit. Weekly tracking provides visibility into personal time, rest, and wellness. Systems can be adjusted to maintain sustainable effort, integrating rest periods, physical activity, and recovery. Over time, a well-tracked and refined system harmonizes performance with health, ensuring that sustained productivity does not come at the cost of energy depletion or burnout. Consistency compounds impact. Each week of tracking and system refinement produces incremental gains that accumulate into substantial progress over months and years. Small adjustments informed by precise data create structural improvements in how time is utilized, attention is allocated, and goals are pursued. The process instills discipline, foresight, and self-awareness, transforming time from a fleeting resource into a controlled and leveraged asset. Tracking time weekly and refining systems is an act of deliberate mastery. It converts observation into insight, data into action, and reflection into improvement. Hours no longer vanish unnoticed. Effort is aligned with outcomes, energy is strategically allocated, and systems evolve with experience. Over time, the practice fosters both efficiency and clarity, creating a rhythm of work that maximizes achievement while preserving mental and physical resources. Ultimately, weekly tracking and system refinement establish control over the flow of life. Each day becomes measurable, each week purposeful, and each action aligned with broader objectives. The discipline cultivates foresight, minimizes wasted effort, and amplifies focus, enabling sustained progress toward meaningful goals. Mastery of time is not merely about working harder, but about observing, analyzing, and continuously optimizing how every moment is invested. By committing to this practice, weeks transform from chaotic reactive sequences into structured, deliberate cycles of growth, productivity, and intentional achievement. Number 9. Schedule rest deliberately for performance. Rest is often treated as optional in a culture that glorifies constant activity, yet it is not a luxury, it is a critical driver of performance. Productivity, creativity, decision-making, and resilience are all deeply tied to the quality and intentionality of rest. Deliberately scheduling rest is a strategic practice, as essential as planning tasks, batching work, or defending time blocks. It transforms fatigue into energy, distraction into focus, and scattered effort into sustained accomplishment. When rest is treated with purpose, it amplifies every hour of work, ensuring that effort produces maximum impact rather than diminishing returns. The first step is understanding the nature of rest. Rest is not simply the absence of activity. It is the deliberate recovery of mental, physical, and emotional energy. Sleep is the foundation, but true rest also encompasses short breaks, deep reflection, movement, and moments of disengagement from stressors. Deliberate rest replenishes attention, restores cognitive capacity, and allows the brain to consolidate learning. Without scheduled recovery, effort becomes reactive, creativity declines, and decision-making suffers. Recognizing rest as an input rather than a reward shifts its perception from optional indulgence to essential strategy. Scheduling rest begins with assessing energy patterns. Each person experiences fluctuations in alertness, focus, and vitality throughout the day. Identify when mental acuity peaks and wanes, then align rest periods with natural dips. Short restorative breaks during low-energy windows prevent exhaustion and maintain overall performance. High-intensity work should be paired with intervals of recovery to avoid burnout and sustain momentum. By respecting natural rhythms, rest becomes a tool that enhances output rather than an interruption to it. Micro-rest periods are as important as extended breaks. Even brief pauses of 5 to 15 minutes can rejuvenate focus. Activities such as stretching, deep breathing, walking, or mindful observation allow the mind to reset without losing track of objective. These small intervals prevent attention fatigue, reduce stress, and maintain clarity over long work periods. Incorporating micro-rest throughout the day ensures that high-energy tasks are approached with optimal capacity rather than dwindling reserves. Strategically scheduling longer rest blocks is equally critical. This includes sleep, midday pauses, or extended recovery sessions after periods of intense effort. Long rest allows the brain and body to consolidate experiences, strengthen memory, and restore physical vitality. It also provides the mental space necessary for problem solving, creative insight, and strategic thinking. Neglecting these restorative blocks undermines both productivity and well-being, creating a cycle where effort becomes less effective despite increased time investment. Boundaries protect the integrity of rest. Scheduled rest is only valuable if it is respected. Silence notifications, close work-related applications, and communicate clearly with others about availability. The discipline of defending rest mirrors the discipline used in protecting high-priority work. Each defended rest period signals the brain that recovery is intentional, reducing stress and enhancing the quality of recuperation. Without these boundaries, rest becomes fragmented and fails to replenish energy effectively. Rituals enhance the effectiveness of rest. Establish consistent practices that prepare the mind and body for recovery, such as reducing screen exposure, dimming lights, practicing meditation, or engaging in calming activities. Rituals create predictable cues that signal relaxation and recovery, allowing the nervous system to shift from high alertness to restorative states. Over time, these patterns condition the brain to optimize rest automatically, increasing both efficiency and quality of recovery. Rest should also be aligned with performance goals. Deliberate scheduling is not merely about stopping work. It is about optimizing capacity for future effort. Aligning rest with demanding tasks ensures that high-value work is approached with maximum energy. For example, a creative project scheduled for late morning benefits from a restorative morning routine or a brief meditative period beforehand. Performance is enhanced when rest is treated as a deliberate input rather than a passive consequence. Psychological rest is as important as physical recovery. Deliberate mental disengagement from stress, worry, and non-essential inputs preserves cognitive clarity. Techniques such as journaling, reflection, mindfulness, or quiet contemplation allow the mind to reset. Mental rest strengthens problem solving, reduces impulsivity, and supports long-term focus. Without deliberate psychological recovery, the mind accumulates cognitive debt, leading to diminished efficiency and decision fatigue. Incorporate movement as part of restorative practice. Physical activity, even gentle stretching or short walks, improves circulation, reduces tension, and increases alertness. Movement-based rest engages the body while relieving mental fatigue, creating a balanced recovery experience. It is especially effective after extended periods of sedentary work, preventing both physical and cognitive stagnation. Scheduling movement intentionally within the day enhances energy flow and prepares the mind for subsequent high-focus tasks. Reflection during rest periods magnifies benefits. Use downtime to review achievements, consider challenges, and gain perspective. This form of rest is active yet gentle, allowing the mind to process information without the pressure of immediate output. Reflection consolidates learning, informs strategy, and reduces the cognitive load of unresolved concerns. Rest becomes a period of growth, not simply pause, enhancing both clarity and preparedness. Rest scheduling requires proactive planning. Treat recovery like any other strategic task. Block time in the calendar, define activities, and honor the duration. Avoid relying on chance or reactive breaks, which are often fragmented and ineffective. Deliberate rest transforms downtime into a predictable, valuable resource, reinforcing the broader architecture of productivity, energy management, and goal achievement. Accountability strengthens adherence to rest periods. Track rest alongside work accomplishments to ensure balance. Observe whether breaks are taken consistently, their duration respected, and their impact noted. Over time, monitoring reveals patterns, highlights deficiencies, and provides insight into optimal timing and structure. Systems for accountability ensure that rest remains intentional, not incidental, contributing measurably to performance and well-being. Integrating rest into high-performance routines fosters resilience. Sustained effort without recovery leads to diminished focus, burnout, and decreased problem-solving capacity. Regularly scheduled rest prevents energy depletion and supports sustained engagement over long-term projects. It is a strategic investment, ensuring that each period of work produces maximum output, rather than eroding energy reserves. Deliberate rest also enhances creativity. The mind generates insights and solutions most effectively when relaxed and unpressured. Moments of stillness, reflection, or sensory disengagement allow ideas to incubate and emerge naturally. Scheduling these intervals ensures that innovation is not left to chance, but becomes a cultivated component of productivity. Creative breakthroughs often arise during these intentionally unscheduled periods, making rest an active contributor to results. Scheduling rest deliberately creates a balance between action and recovery. It transforms the day from a reactive scramble into a measured sequence of effort and recuperation. By allocating specific periods for mental, physical, and emotional restoration, energy is maintained, focus is sharpened, and resilience is cultivated. The mind and body operate as an integrated system, each component supported and optimized for sustained performance. Ultimately, rest is not a passive concession, but a deliberate strategic practice. It is an input that directly influences output, energy, and clarity. Scheduling rest deliberately ensures that effort produces maximum results, creativity is nurtured, and the mind remains resilient in the face of challenge. Mastery of rest is mastery of performance. When rest is planned, defended, and respected, every hour of work becomes sharper, more productive, and more meaningful. Over time, deliberate rest compounds benefits exponentially. Energy levels stabilize, focus deepens, and performance becomes sustainable across days, weeks, and months. The practice transforms exhaustion into preparedness, stress into calm, and fragmented effort into coherent productivity. Scheduling rest strategically is not indulgence. It is an essential tool for anyone seeking to operate at peak capacity, achieve meaningful goals, and maintain long-term resilience, ensuring that every moment of work is powered by intentional recovery and sustained vitality. Number 10. Review results nightly. Adjust tomorrow. Every day is a collection of choices, actions, and consequences, but without reflection, even the most productive hours risk being lost to repetition or inefficiency. Reviewing results nightly is a disciplined practice that transforms each day into a learning opportunity, a moment to consolidate achievement, and a chance to prepare for tomorrow with clarity and intention. It is not about self-criticism or perfectionism. It is about awareness, insight, and continuous refinement. By assessing progress before sleep, the mind captures lessons, adjusts strategies, and positions itself for deliberate success in the following day. The process begins with capturing what was accomplished. Look back over the day and take stock of tasks completed, milestones reached, and challenges faced. Record these observations systematically, noting not only what was achieved, but also how effectively it was done. The act of documentation converts ephemeral actions into concrete data that can inform future planning. Without this conscious recording, progress may be misjudged, effort misallocated, and patterns of success or inefficiency remain invisible. Next, evaluate outcomes against intentions. Consider whether the day aligned with goals set earlier, whether priorities were honored, and how effectively energy and focus were allocated. This comparison between expectation and reality reveals both successes and areas for improvement. It highlights which strategies work, which habits are productive, and which require modification. Nightly review becomes a compass, showing the path forward with precision and honesty. Reflection should also identify obstacles and disruptions. Examine where attention was lost, tasks were delayed, or unexpected challenges arose. Understand the cause of these interruptions, whether internal, such as procrastination or lack of clarity, or external, such as unplanned demands or environmental distractions. Insight into these patterns allows adjustments that prevent recurrence, turning mistakes into learning experiences and minor setbacks into opportunities for improvement. Actionable adjustments are the most critical outcome of nightly review. Determine what changes are necessary for the next day, rescheduling unfinished tasks, reallocating energy, refining priorities, or modifying approaches. This proactive planning reduces uncertainty and decision fatigue the following morning. The mind enters the new day not reactive or overwhelmed, but guided by clarity and strategies. Adjustments should be specific, realistic, and directly tied to insights gained from reflection, ensuring that lessons translate into tangible improvements. Tracking performance quantitatively enhances review. Use metrics such as task completion rates, time spent on priority activities, or adherence to schedules. Numbers provide objectivity, revealing patterns that perception alone might miss. This data-driven perspective strengthens decision-making for adjustments, showing which habits maximize efficiency and which behaviors erode time or energy. Consistent measurement transforms nightly review from vague reflection into actionable intelligence. Incorporate qualitative insights as well. Evaluate emotional state, motivation, and satisfaction with accomplishments. How did tasks feel during execution? Were moments of focus deep and sustained, or was energy scattered? Emotional and subjective assessments complement quantitative tracking, offering a complete picture of performance. Recognizing the interplay between mood, energy, and productivity provides guidance for optimizing schedules, rest, and task allocation for the following day. Visual tools support clarity in nightly review. Journals, spreadsheets, or tracking apps create an organized record of performance. Visual representations of time, progress, and results reveal patterns more effectively than memory alone. They make inefficiencies visible, highlight trends, and facilitate strategic adjustments. A structured review system prevents reflection from becoming abstract or superficial, grounding insight in tangible evidence. Prioritization for the next day is an essential part of the process. Identify the top tasks that require attention, focusing on high-impact activities that advance meaningful goals. Use insights from reflection to determine timing, energy allocation, and batching strategies. By deciding priorities in advance, the morning begins with direction and momentum rather than reaction and improvisation. This preemptive planning increases efficiency and reduces the mental load of decision-making during high-focus periods. Nightly review also fosters accountability. By facing the day's results honestly, patterns of excellence or underperformance become clear. This self-awareness cultivates responsibility, reinforcing habits of intentional action. It is not about judgment, but clarity. Seeing where attention was effective and where it faltered empowers deliberate course corrections. Consistent review strengthens the mind's capacity for disciplined action and builds a feedback loop for ongoing improvement. Energy management benefits directly from reflection. Consider whether energy was distributed optimally and whether rest periods were sufficient. Insights about fatigue, focus, and alertness guide scheduling for the next day, aligning demanding tasks with peak performance windows. Adjusting plans based on these observations prevents burnout, enhances creativity, and ensures that critical work receives maximal attention. Performance becomes sustainable rather than sporadic, driven by both awareness and intentional planning. Problem solving is enhanced through nightly assessment. Challenges encountered during the day often contain lessons about workflow, communication, or decision-making. By reviewing obstacles in a calm and reflective state, solutions can be conceived deliberately rather than reactively. Planning adjustments in advance allows the next day to proceed with strategies already considered, minimizing friction and optimizing efficiency. Reflection transforms difficulty into opportunity, turning recurring challenges into solved problems over time. Reviewing results nightly cultivates a mindset of continuous improvement. Each day provides feedback, and each adjustment compounds over time. Habits are refined, systems improved, and efficiency steadily increased. This practice fosters resilience, adaptability, and strategic thinking, as the mind learns to treat every day as both a laboratory for experimentation and a foundation for future success. Growth becomes deliberate and structured, rather than random or accidental. Mental closure is another benefit. By reflecting on accomplishments and challenges before sleep, the mind can release unfinished business and stress. This closure promotes restorative rest, preventing lingering concerns from disrupting recovery. sleep becomes more effective, supporting memory consolidation, creativity, and energy restoration. Nightly reflection thus bridges productivity and recovery, ensuring that performance continues to improve, not only through action but also through strategic rest. The practice of reviewing results nightly reinforces long-term alignment with goals. Each day is examined in the context of broader objectives, ensuring that effort contributes meaningfully rather than being consumed by distraction. Over time, patterns emerge, revealing whether strategies, habits, and schedules are advancing priorities. Adjustments made nightly refine this alignment continuously, creating a feedback loop that guides consistent progress toward overarching ambition. Reflection should also include recognition of accomplishments. Celebrate tasks completed, obstacles overcome, and moments of focus maintained. This acknowledgement reinforces motivation, builds confidence, and strengthens the sense of control over one's time and effort. Positive reinforcement enhances adherence to systems and encourages continued intentional action, making each day a source of both achievement and learning. Nightly review is not complete without preparation for the following day. Use insights to schedule high-priority tasks, allocate energy periods, set boundaries, and plan rest strategically. Anticipate potential interruptions and adjust systems to maintain focus. This forward-looking component transforms insight into action, ensuring that reflection translates into deliberate, high-impact planning. The result is a day that begins with momentum, clarity, and purpose rather than reactive scrambling. Ultimately, reviewing results nightly and adjusting tomorrow is a discipline of mastery over time, energy, and focus. It transforms each day from a series of events into a structured process of learning, refinement, and deliberate action. Patterns of productivity, distraction, energy, and challenge become visible, providing actionable insights that enhance performance and resilience. The practice cultivates awareness, sharpens decision-making, and positions the mind to approach each day strategically, ensuring that effort is purposeful, progress is measurable, and growth is continuous. When executed consistently, this practice compounds. Each day's reflection informs the next, creating a cycle of improvement that accumulates over weeks, months, and years. Productivity becomes sustainable, focus becomes habitual, and goals are advanced with precision. Reviewing results nightly is not merely an administrative task. It is a cornerstone of disciplined, intentional living, ensuring that every day contributes meaningfully to mastery, achievement, and the creation of a life directed by purpose rather than chance.